Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you're doing well. It is Thursday, February the 5th, and I wanted to bring you a reading update. First thing here, I actually finished this one. One Corpse Too Many, and that is the second entry in the Brother Cadville Chronicles. And that one came as kind of a surprise. I think I had talked about that on the tag video I did, the New Year, New Me tag. And Brandy, the Bookclectic, and Mark from Richardson Reads had both mentioned that they really liked that series and were getting ready to read the second one just then. So I said, hey, cosmic coincidence, I'll go ahead and read that along with you. So yeah, that happened, and much like the first one, I really enjoyed it. This is also, of course, set in the 12th century England in Shropshire, and it's during the period of the anarchy, the civil war that occurred when King Stephen and Empress Matilda were vying for the throne. And the abbey right outside Shrewsbury is trying to go on with things as usual, but King Stephen is camped right outside because there are a lot of barons and others here in the town of Shrewsbury who have declared loyalty to Empress Matilda, or Maud, however you would have it. And he's not too pleased about this and is going to take this town very soon. And when the town is taken, he executes a lot of people as kind of a deterrent, a warning that, hey, there's new leadership in town, you're going to have to deal with it. But the abbot of the monastery decides that he wants to offer rites of burial to any of the executed who aren't claimed by family and so forth. And Brother Cadville is put in charge of that because of mostly his experience as a man-at-arms and so forth. And in doing this, he discovers that there is one more corpse there than was given in the tally. And what's more, he realizes that this corpse was murdered rather than executed. So thus our title, One Corpse Too Many, and Brother Cadville's on the case. I don't think I'm going to say too much more than that, just because it's a mystery, and to say much more would be to kind of ruin the fun to a certain extent. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. Brother Cadville is a great character. There's lots of intrigue in this one. Possible betrayal. People hanging out at the Abbey who may not be who they appear to be. Of course, encroaching civil war. I mean, there's a murderer running around somewhere. What's not to enjoy? So, yeah, that kind of thing sounds like your bag. Mystery with a little touch of historical fiction. I highly recommend. Okay, next thing I've been working on is Histories of Herodotus. Been doing that for the first quarter of Historathon. And I've made it through the first book, and I guess the overall thrust of this work is to be the history of the Greco-Persian War. And in this first book, Herodotus really kind of wants to trace the origins of that, I think. He kind of settles on what he sees as the real flashpoint where an unmistakable move of aggression was made, was when King Croesus, or Croesus, however you would have it, of Lydia gets a little too full of himself and decides he's going to take on Cyrus of Persia for reasons of expansion and revenge, actually. And it doesn't go so well for him. Hubris is a big theme here. But yeah, I guess Herodotus saw that as kind of the opening salvo of the war. But then he, of course, goes back even further. He kind of gives us the background of how Croesus and Cyrus came to be where they were. Like with Croesus, he goes all the way back to that dynasty in Lydia to Gyges or Gyges, however it's pronounced. I've heard it both ways. And his crazy story, he was the bodyguard of the former king, of course, and I guess the king decided that his bodyguard didn't believe him quite enough when he claimed that his wife was the most attractive woman in the world. So the king invites his bodyguard to take a peek at his wife while she's in the nude. Yes, this is a strange book in many ways. And the queen is aware of this stranger's presence but doesn't say anything. Instead, the next day, she summons Gyges and says, "Well, we have a problem here. There are two men who know me in that way now, and I can't have that, so either you're going to have to assassinate the king and take his place as the king and my husband, or I'm going to have you executed right now. Make your choice." And old Gyges decides he wants to live. So, yeah, he was the first of that dynasty that led up to Croesus. And with on Cyrus' side, and the Persian side, we get this crazy story that Cyrus's grandfather had all kinds of really bizarre Freudian dreams about his daughter's son taking over his empire. And he tries to have the child murdered, but the one he chose to do the deed takes pity on the child, as Cyrus. And eventually Cyrus ends up as an adult and encourages the Persians to rise in rebellion against the Medes and overthrows his grandfather and becomes the king of the Persians. So they kind of suppressed the Medes at the same time. But yeah, that's how our two what do you want to call them? Big kings end up in their place, and Cyrus ends up taking over the Lydian Empire because of Croesus's hubris, and he, of course, begins to expand, takes over a lot of the Ionian cities, and is even taking over Babylon, the Assyrians, and so forth. But he eventually becomes a little bit too confident himself, and who was it he tries to take on? I can't remember the name of the people, but their queen, after Cyrus defeats them in one battle and manages to take her son as a hostage, their queen says something like, "If you don't return my son, I will quench your thirst for blood." If you don't return my son and retreat right now, I will quench your thirst for blood. And Cyrus just kind of takes that as, a lark and proceeds to attack, and the Queen's forces overtake Cyrus's army, and the Queen fills a wineskin with human blood and shoves Cyrus's severed head into it. So, yeah, she was true to her word, I suppose. But, yeah, that's the end of book 1. So, kind of crazy stuff. I think what I've enjoyed most of all is kind of Herodotus's wild digressions. I sure hope that the practice of murdering someone's children and feeding their flesh to them at a meal wasn't, for petty insults usually, wasn't as common as he would imply, because it seemed like it happened a lot. I like little details, like evidently the Persians wanted to evict lepers and albinos, as well as white doves, from their cities because they were thought to be an offense to the sun, S-U-N. So, yeah, there's all kinds of fascinating little tidbits like that. I'm really enjoying it so far. So, yeah, I guess that's what I have to say about what I have been reading. I'll talk a little bit about what I've got upcoming here. First of all, I'm going to be reading with Brandy at the Bookclectic, Spooky Action at a Distance, Why Space and Time Are Doomed, and what it means for black holes, the Big Bang, and theories of everything. That's a pretty sensationalistic title, obviously, kind of a crazy cover, but I get that it's supposed to be a pretty reasonable popularization about non-locality, quantum entanglement, and so forth, so I'm looking forward to that. A couple of others that I just happen to see on my shelf that decided I wanted to go ahead and read. Hesiod's Work and Days and Theogony. I guess Works and Days is supposed to be about agriculture in some way. I really don't know that much about it. And Theogony is obviously going to be about the origin of the gods. It's just one of those that I haven't read yet. Decided now was the time. It's a slim little volume. Most of that is introduction and notes and so forth. So, yeah, I thought I'd finally get that checked off. And I also just had this little book here about the Minoans, life in Bronze Age Crete. I just thought I'd finally get that one read. I think it's kind of self-explanatory what it's going to be about, but looking forward to it. I've always had an interest in ancient Crete, so there you go. That's enough about books. I'm going to tack onto this at the end. I'm going to talk a little bit about this jigsaw puzzle I've been doing. A couple people asked me for an update on that. If you have no interest in that, go ahead and take off now. I thank you for joining me, but for those who are interested, just wait through a really clumsy amateur edit here, and I'll be back with you. Okay, here it is. It's 2,000 pieces. It's kind of a physical map of the world. I try not to look at the lid while I'm working on a puzzle, so I don't think I'll show you yet either. Maybe it can kind of be gradually revealed over time, but you can see I've got the border and the part at the top with the huge letters. What can I say? I'm shockingly lazy. I like to get the low-hanging fruit first. But yeah, it's proceeding, I suppose. I think I would like to maybe do a little segment at the end of my reading update videos just about hobbies in general. I live kind of an isolated life. I do all kinds of little things to try to keep myself occupied. Do little things with building models and plant propagation and things like that. I used to do a little bit of woodworking, but I live with a dementia patient and have to be very mindful about the tools I keep around here now. But yeah, this might be a fun little segment to tack on here. I think I kind of stole the idea from Trav over at Books, Builds, and More, so thank you, Trav, or I'm sorry, whichever you prefer. And yeah, that could be fun. I'll spare you me splayed out over there on the sectional, rotting in front of some trashy Netflix true crime thing, but yeah, anything that's a little bit more constructive than that, I'll probably share on here. So until next time, I'm glad you joined me, and take care.